because I really do. I long to see the church mobilized. I long to see the church connect with neighbors. I long to see neighborhoods change, and I don't want to see them changed by all the other forces out there that can create and change a neighborhood. I believe that God wants to change. He wants to change the neighborhood, and I believe He does it through His church.
Welcome everybody to episode number 12 of Community Connections with Love Inc. Today I'm with Bill Clifton, and he's the Director of Relational Ministries, and he's joined us today to talk about a few different things. One will be the process of getting involved with Love Inc. and really his heart behind what Love Inc. is all about and mobilizing the church together to transform lives. So thank you so much for talking and sharing your vision and everything like that. So
it's great what you do.
Yeah, so share a little bit about what does it mean to start the process of getting involved with Love Inc., both practically and like why would somebody even want to do that?
I think there's a lot of people out there who really have vision to be involved in their communities, have a passion to be involved in their communities. They become a believer. They walk with Jesus. What does that mean for them? It's got to be something more than I show up on a Sunday to go to church, because I think God really has a call in our lives. Think about that verse, Ephesians 2:10. I love that verse. That he kind of talks about even before we were formed. He had these works for us that he created for us to walk in. Created in Christ for good works, in which He's prepared beforehand. I mean, that's incredible. I mean, you go ahead and combine that with Psalm 139, where He knew us before we were even formed, and put the two of them together. Yeah. And to think that we really do have these God-given talents and passions and gifts that are unique to us. I think God instills them in us, and I think He creates this desire within us to walk it out. Yeah. And so I think it starts with that desire. There's a lot of good ministries out there, Love Inc. being one of them. And so it typically starts with a phone call. How do I get involved with Love Inc.? Or maybe a flyer that's on the bulletin board at a church, and that kind of thing, and practical ways as far as practically how they do it. I mean, it's a matter of getting on our website and letting me know that you're interested in Love Inc. and would like to go through an orientation. They fill out an application. There's a Gifts of Love inventory that they can fill out that talks more about what they are interested in. I take them through an orientation, and we try to match them to where their hearts may be.
Gifts of Love, what exactly is that?
Yeah, Gifts of Love would be simply a listing of different ways to be involved with Love Inc. Some of the things that we do, ways to be involved in that, whether it be at one of the stores or it be at the donation center, maybe the clearinghouse. LIN on those Thursday nights, Love Your Neighbor program. Become a spiritual friend and walk with a neighbor. A lot of different things. And yet another thing we're really doing with that Gifts of Love is that, I mean, it may be that their gifts or talents or passions match with what we're doing with Love Inc. But I want to hear what their heart is. I want to hear what really makes their heart beat. And then what are ways that we can go ahead and match them to a ministry, to walk out that gift, that passion. It may be a gap in our community that's just not being met now. I think if God puts that on someone's hearts, He likely puts it on other people's hearts as well. Yep. How can we combine these volunteers and churches and walk that out together? Yeah. To me, that's what it's all about.
Yeah. It's that whole loving your neighbor as yourself. It's like the two greatest commandments. I was actually listening to something yesterday where somebody, there's an interview, and they were saying when Jesus was asked by the Pharisees about, what's the greatest commandment, because they were like, tell us, it's in there. You tell us which one's the greatest and we'll follow it, that kind of thing. And then He says, well, he doesn't give them one in typical Jesus fashion. He just says, love God and love your neighbor. It's like those two are inseparable from our walk with the Lord. So it's like, it's not like you can have one and have the other. It's like
it's
integrating.
a combination. Yeah. And I love where Jesus says, well, how will people know that you've walked with me? It's going to be the way that you show your love. The way you show your love for each other proves that you've walked with Jesus,
Right.
and that He's alive and well in your life. And I think we see, I truly believe we see that displayed in the opportunities that we have out there to serve.
Sure. So share a little bit about your heart behind it. I know you had been with, you've volunteered in the past with Love Inc. before you were actually on staff with us. So like share when you first learned of Love Inc. I don't know how far back that was. And then how you originally got involved. I know your wife is also involved, and kind of what did that look like moving forward?
Yeah, I think it's probably only been maybe 3-4 years. And it would have been a Redemptive Compassion class. Natalie Pittman called me up and said, "Hey, I think you would like this class." And so I took it, and it was just a great class. It just really spoke into some things that were on my heart, and it also gives us some real understanding on, well, then how do we walk that out in a way that works? With that, Debbie Ramsey was actually the one teaching that class, and one time in class she asked if anyone would like to volunteer. We have opportunities, and so I asked her after class, so okay, how do I get involved? And I started out at the donation center, and after work I would come over about 4:30 and we would do some deliveries, typically 2 deliveries. Fortunately, I wasn't the one driving the truck and the trailer. I was there to help. I was there to help out with things, and it was that was just a great experience. That whole thing of either delivering to neighbors or picking up from neighbors,
Sure.
picking up from people in our community, and then praying with them, and just the desire to be prayed for and prayed with, and just a great experience. And then from there was a Love Your Neighbor program.
Okay.
And I honestly, that has really affected my life in an incredible way. I have loved going to a place where there's 80 to 100 people, and we share a meal together, and we just sit down and we just share life together. And to be in a place where people know they're loved, they're accepted for who they are, not just neighbors, but volunteers as well. Because we got our stuff. We all got our stuff. And to come to a place where you can just be yourself and share together and laugh together and eat together and then go to these classes and just a tremendous experience. And I was I'm actually still a spiritual friend with one of our neighbors, and it's been a friendship. It's been more than this spiritual mentor kind of friendship. It's been a friendship. Yeah. And we love to get together and enjoy each other.
So I know we've been hearing a lot about spiritual friends when we were talking about Lavelle and Mary, and that's kind of the on display. I don't know if that's the right word, but for graduation, that's really what was highlighted in when we saw those, both of them getting together and really nurturing that kind of relationship. But what specifically, we see transformation in neighbors' lives. What transformation happened in you because specifically in that? You don't have to go into deep detail, but
yeah, no, I think that one of the things that the church can end up doing at times is that it becomes this us-them relationship, and it's tiered like that. It really ought to be this even plane, because we all need Jesus. We all, again, are working through things in our lives. We need each other. I think one of the ways I've changed is that it's for me growing up, for me to walk by faith. Yeah, it's a challenge, right? It's a challenge for all of us. Sure. But I have all of these safety nets around me. I grew up in really a pretty good family. Sure. I've got a good job. I've got a decent house. I've got a set of friends. Things seem to be together.
Sure.
So for me to walk by faith, well, yeah, it's a challenge, but I can hedge. I've got this safety net behind me for a neighbor to walk by faith. A lot of them do not have a safety net underneath of them. It's either, Jesus, you've got to come through.
Yeah.
Because if you don't come through, I don't know what I'm going to do. And so for me to see Jesus come through for them, for them to see it, for me to see it, for me to see what it's like for them to walk by faith and the challenge it is for them, boy, that builds faith in me.
Yeah. It like builds out this whole new perspective on
It does.
everything.
It does. And I am convinced that as volunteers, as the church, we need our neighbors.
Yeah.
We need our neighbors as much as they would ever need us, and maybe we need them more at times.
Yeah.
Because we're learning so much.
Definitely.
And for me, that's, again, it's been life-changing.
Yeah, I know the various times I've spoken. I'm not as involved in the LYN program as you are, but like the various times I've spoken with neighbors, even just on like 2 or 3 times or something like that, it's just, yeah, the perspective that you get just from hearing where they've been is like, it's crazy.
Yep.
Not crazy, it's insightful, and it's powerful, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, and there's an honesty there that I think is eye-opening and an honesty that I think we need to hear.
Yeah.
I mean, when I'm asked, well, how are you doing? Well, okay,
Good.
I'm doing fine. I wonder if at times we need to be better at being honest about, hey, this is who I am.
Yeah.
This is where I'm at. This is where I hope to be. And I hear neighbors talking like that a lot.
Yeah.
And being and knowing the freedom to be able to talk like that and still be loved.
Yeah.
That's huge for any of us.
Yeah. Do you feel like some of them have received judgment, not necessarily maybe from churches, but maybe from friends, individuals, for being honest in that way? Like, do you feel like that there's a stigma towards that kind of openness about being in process in the Christian life?
Yeah, I think that's always a danger.
Yeah.
I do. I think another danger with it is that sometimes we just don't know what to do with that.
Sure.
And I think I've learned that it maybe it's not a matter of needing to give the right answers for that. Maybe it's a need to walk with and be in relationship and trust God to do the work.
Sure.
So I think sometimes we just haven't known, we just don't feel comfortable in those settings, those situations, those relationships with someone who maybe seems so different. And yet I think as we walk together, we realize they're not any different than us. We're very similar. And it erases some of that prejudice or some of that fear or some of that stigma that's created at times. Yeah.
When you get that perspective. Switching gears to the church mobilization piece, so we talked about neighbors a little bit, but what's your vision for the church mobilizing together to transform lives? It's like our mission with Love Inc. is that, but where do you see that going, and what would you like to see that? How would you like to see that, rather?
Yeah, I think one of the neat things with my job is that volunteer and church relation just is kind of a hand-in-hand thing. It really works together. I had pastored for a time in Missouri, and one of the challenges one of the challenges I know that I had, and I think a challenge that a lot of pastors have, a lot of churches have, is how do we get our people outside of these 4 walls and into our community? And to get into the community, not just to do a prayer walk, although that's great. We did them when I was a pastor, and they're so important.
Yeah.
But there's a thing of going ahead and connecting with people. It's a thing of creating relationship with people. And that's a challenge at times. For some of the things we just got done talking about, I think is part of the reason why it's a challenge. If you want to go ahead and have an opportunity to meet people outside in the community, we'll give you that opportunity. Because I think that's one of the things I love about Love Inc. is that those opportunities are there. And what Love Inc. done has created those opportunities. And wow, we need churches. We need people to walk with each other in some of these neighbor relations that we've created over time.
Sure.
John 1:14 is a verse that I just love. And ESV would it says that the Word became flesh and dwelt among us. To me, that changes everything. All of a sudden, he is far bigger than what maybe we thought he was. He actually takes on flesh and comes and walks among us. And in the Message version, it says that he moved into the neighborhood. Mm-hmm. Man, I love that.
That's good imagery.
It is, and I am convinced that that's what our churches are to be. We're to be just like that. We're to walk out whatever that means for us, to move into our neighborhoods and get to know neighbors. And that can happen in the stores, it can happen in the donation center, it can happen in the clearinghouse, it can definitely happen in LYN. And that's my vision. That's a lot of what makes my heart beat.
Sure.
One of the things that I am so excited about is that some of this passion has been in my life for a long time. Mm-hmm. And when I was a pastor, it was good. I wasn't sure that was exactly me. Mm-hmm. And yet God sometimes takes us through all these different paths and brings us to where our hearts are. Mm-hmm. And I am so thankful for being at a place where that has happened for me.
Yeah.
Because I really do. I long to see the church mobilized. I long to see the church connect with neighbors. I long to see neighborhoods change. And I don't want to see them changed by all the other forces out there that can create and change a neighborhood. I believe that God wants to change. He wants to change the neighborhood. And I believe He does it through His church. So that's part of the passion. I'd say another one is that, in order for a Love Inc. affiliate to form, you've got to have 6 different churches that are a part of it. 6 different denominations become a part of it.
Yeah.
That in itself can be quite a challenge. And it can't start until you have those 6 different denominations. Mm-hmm. Well, it happened for us. Sure. We have many more denominations than that now. And I love that because it's a church coming together to do this work. Mm-hmm. I say it often, it's not Love Inc. who does this work. Mm-hmm. It's the church. We're simply the bridge for the church to be out there in our communities. And so, I think it's one thing for the local church to hear God's heart for them. But it's a whole nother thing for the churches and a community to begin to hear God's heart for them together.
Yeah.
And then move out on that.
Yeah.
And I think that Love Inc. is one of those ministries that can begin to help make that happen. Mm-hmm. And I know God longs for that. I know God longs for that because He talks about creating His church. It isn't just a one church. It isn't just a denomination. It's the churches coming together. That's the church He's creating. Mm-hmm. So to be a part of that is a gift.
Yeah. Thanks for sitting down and sharing your heart. Yeah. And thank you all for watching. This has been episode 12, and we will see you all next time.